This is Microsoft PowerPoint for Beginners, the complete course. In this video, we'll cover everything that you need to know to use PowerPoint effectively. It doesn't matter what version of PowerPoint you have, what I show in this video will be very applicable to you and will help you on your path to becoming a PowerPoint expert. Let's get started. And in the first segment of this course, we're going to learn about the layout that we have in Microsoft PowerPoint, and we're going to learn how to create a presentation, enter text into that presentation, add slides to a presentation, and how to save your presentation. The first thing we need to cover is the layout in Microsoft PowerPoint. So when you're in PowerPoint, what you're looking at here toward the center of the screen is your title slide, your first slide. This is a bigger view of it. And then over here at the left, we have a thumbnail version of the same title slide. And those two things put together take up the majority of the screen space that we have in PowerPoint. But let's look at the rest of the layout because it's really important. In PowerPoint, if you look at the top of the screen, you'll see that we have several tabs. We have the Home tab, which is one of the most commonly used tabs. We have the Design tab, Animations tab, Review tab, and more. And when you click on a tab, the tools that you see here change. This area of the layout is called the ribbon, and there are different ribbons that become visible when you click on a tab. So the terminology that we use in PowerPoint is that when you click on a tab, let's say the Insert tab, then the Insert ribbon becomes visible, and the Insert ribbon is divided up into groups. So we have an Illustrations group, we have an Images group, Tables, Slides, Comments, Text, and more. Now, in some cases, Microsoft wasn't able to fit all of the options into the small space provided here on the ribbon and in these individual groups. So for example, in this clipboard group, there's only just a little bit of space provided. So Microsoft hid some of the additional options in this button here. This is called the Clipboard Dialog Launcher. I like to just call it the Launch button. And you can see over here, the Paragraph group also has a Launch button. So does the Drawing group. Whenever you see a Launch button and it's black, you should know that you can click on it to get additional options that don't fit in the provided space on the ribbon. In addition to my title slide and its thumbnail here at the left, and the tabs, the ribbons, the groups, and the launch buttons, it's important to also be aware of a few other layout features. Notice here in the upper left, we have a quick save button. Here at the top, we have a search bar or search button, and we can use that search to search for options, settings, and for other help in using Microsoft PowerPoint. Over here in the upper right corner, we have the close button. You can click this to close out of PowerPoint when you're ready to stop using it. In the lower right corner, we have a zoom slider. You can click and drag this slider bar to the right to zoom in on a particular slide. You can click and drag it to the left to zoom out. Just to the left of the zoom slider, we have different views that we can use in Microsoft PowerPoint. This view here is Slideshow view. When you click that, the presentation begins. I'm going to tap Escape on the keyboard to get out of presentation mode. Just to the left of that, we have some other views. We have Reading view that focuses just on helping us read the text in the PowerPoint. We have the Slide Sorter view that helps us to get the big picture of our presentation, to see each slide, and maybe to reorder those slides. And then finally, we have the Normal view that most people use when creating their PowerPoint. Just to the left of that, you can also click on Notes, and it lets you type in presenter notes. Only the presenter will be able to see those notes once the PowerPoint is started. Now that you've learned the layout in Microsoft PowerPoint, let's look at how to create a new blank presentation. Whenever you open up Microsoft PowerPoint, you're taken to a screen that looks something like this. Here I have a list of documents that I've recently used. Up here at the top, I have a button that I can use to create a brand new blank presentation, and that's what I'm going to do. But I also want you to be aware that there are some pre-made themes that you can use, kind of like templates, and you can click here to get even more themes, and also to search for some online themes. So that's definitely worth checking out. You can just take those themes and adapt them for your own uses. But for now, I'm just going to click on Blank Presentation to open up a brand new blank PowerPoint presentation. And let's say that I'm a Spanish teacher and I want to create a presentation for my students about the country of Chile. I'll just click here where it says click to add title, and I'll type in Chile. Underneath that, I can click to add a subtitle. In many cases, people will put their name here and type something like by so-and-so. In my case, I just want to put a subtitle, Chile, Country of Poets. So now I have a simple title slide for my presentation. Now I'm ready to move on to my first content slide. If I go here to the Home tab, here on the Home ribbon in the Slides group, I have a button that will give me a new slide. Now if I click that, it does give me a new blank slide. I can see the thumbnail for it here at the left. So now I have 2 thumbnails and 2 slides. If I want to go back and edit my first slide, I can click here on its thumbnail and then edit the slide here. For now, I'll go back to my second slide by clicking on my second thumbnail. Now, if you want to, you can specify the kind of new slide that you'll get. Instead of clicking here on the top half of this button, I could click on the bottom half, and it gives me a variety of options for this new slide. The default option is this, title and content. You can see it here, title and content. But if I prefer, I could just get a section header or 2 items of content, one at the left, one at the right. I could get a new slide that is perfect for comparison between the 2, and you can see the other options here below. In my case, title and content is exactly what I wanted, so I'm happy. Here on my second slide, I'm going to click to add the title for this slide, and I'll just type in Geography of Chile. That's what this slide's going to be about. Now to add content to this slide, I can just click here where it says click to add text. I can type in some information about the geography of Chile. After typing in South America, I'll tap enter on the keyboard and I get a new bullet. If I want to, I can indent this bullet by tapping tab, and I can continue typing and adding more information. Now that I've done some significant work in my PowerPoint presentation, it's a good idea to go ahead and save this presentation. I could simply click this quick save button in the upper left, but I want you to see that there are other options. If I click here on File, it takes me to what's called the Backstage view. And here you can see that we have 2 main kinds of saves. We have just a regular save, and we have a save as. In most cases, when you save a presentation for the first time, it becomes a save as. Even if you click here on save, it will turn it into a save as. The reason why is because when you click save as, you're asked to provide a name for the PowerPoint presentation. You're also asked where to save it. So as long as you've done that once, from then on, you can just click the regular save button and it will update the saved file. Now there are situations in which, even though you've saved as before and put in a name and a location for your presentation, there are situations in which you might want to save as again, maybe to create a second version of a PowerPoint that you've made. So just try to be aware of the differences between the 2. To demonstrate this, I'm going to click the regular save, but watch as it converts it into a save as, because I need to provide a name and a location. So it's become a save as, and now I need to determine where am I going to save this presentation. In most cases, you'll probably want to save it to your computer, and you'll probably need to browse. So I clicked on Browse. It opens up this dialog box, and I can specify where on my computer I'd like to save this presentation. In this case, I think I'll save it in my documents. Notice that it put in Chile as the file name. PowerPoint pulled that from the title that I typed onto the title slide. So that's perfectly fine. I'll go ahead and click Save. And now you can see up here on the title bar, I now have a title for my presentation. So in this first segment of PowerPoint for Beginners Complete Course, we've looked at the layout in Microsoft PowerPoint. We've also looked at how to create a new blank presentation, how to make some basic edits, how to add a new slide, and also how to save your presentation. In this next segment of PowerPoint for Beginners Complete Course, we're going to look at how to open and edit an existing presentation. So I'm going to leave this presentation that I'm working on open, but I'm also going to go here to the upper left corner, click on File and Open, and I'll click here on Browse. By default, it took me to my documents, but if it hadn't done so, I could have clicked on Documents, and then I can browse through this list to find the presentation that I'm looking for. There it is, and I'll click on it and click Open, and now I'll have a second PowerPoint presentation opened up. And I want to just click this button, Enable Editing, And now I have this pre-existing PowerPoint presentation opened up and ready to be used. As I hinted at in the previous segment, the way you navigate through a presentation is pretty straightforward. You simply click on the thumbnail of the slide that you would like to look at, and it's displayed here in the center of the screen. So I can click here, click here, click here, and the active slide is updated. Of course, I can edit any of this information, including the text. I can just click to add characters or to delete. I can triple click to select the entire paragraph or phrase in this case, and then I could type over that if I want to. And then anytime I make a change, I can just click away and that change is recorded. I'm going to undo that, holding Control and tapping Z. You can also undo here in the upper left corner using this button. Now, as you work in Microsoft PowerPoint, you may need to switch the view of your presentation. So let's look up here on the View tab. When I click that, we get the View ribbon, and you can see there are several different presentation views. I've already talked about some of these when I showed you these buttons here at the bottom of the PowerPoint screen. I do want to point out this view, the Outline view. When you click on that, it gives you an outline overview of your presentation. Like I showed earlier, we also have the slide sorter. This makes it really easy and handy to click and drag and reorder your slides. And we have the reading view, I'll tap escape, and the notes view, and our normal view. In the previous segment, I showed you how to use the Home tab and the Slides group to add a new slide. But let's say you want to insert a new slide in between two existing slides. All you need to do is click between the two slides and you can see this horizontal red line. And then you could just go to the Home tab to insert a new slide, or you could go to the Insert tab. Either way, you can choose New Slide and pick the slide type that you would like to add. I'll choose Title and Content. There is another way to add blank slides in PowerPoint. Let's say I want a slide between El Auto and El Autobus. I could just right click here and choose New Slide, and a new slide is created between those two. A similar skill that will come in handy quite often is to duplicate slides. Let's say my next slide is going to be very similar to this one. Maybe I still want the image of the car, but maybe I want to add more pictures and maybe change the name. I could just right click on this existing slide thumbnail and choose Duplicate Slide. Now I have two, and I can make my adjustments to the second slide. It's also possible to hide slides. If I right click on a slide, I can choose Hide Slide. So now, when I start my presentation, my hidden slide is skipped over. I'll tap Escape to get out of my presentation. I hope you noticed that this slide was skipped completely. Now, why would you ever want to hide a slide? There may be situations in which you create a presentation for an audience, and then maybe you reuse that presentation for a different audience. Because of the change of audience, you may decide you don't want to show certain slides, and you could just right-click on them and hide them temporarily while you present to the current audience. Then, the next time you present for yet another audience, you might decide to unhide this slide. You could just right-click on it and choose Hide Slide, and that will unhide the slide. So this Hide Slide button works kind of like a toggle button. You toggle it on, you toggle it off, and the slides become hidden or unhidden. At this point, let's look at one more way that you can edit your presentation, and that is by changing a slide's orientation. When I go here to the Design tab, here at the right, I should see the Customize group, and here we have Slide Size. I can click on that and change it from a widescreen format to a standard format. Now that's kind of a funny word for it. This used to be the standard, but now with most televisions, with most projectors, widescreen has really become the standard. So in most cases, you'll want to keep it set to widescreen, but if you want a more narrow slide size and presentation size, you can choose standard, or you could go to custom slide size. And there are times when it might be best to use portrait mode for PowerPoint. You can also set custom widths and heights and make other adjustments as well. If you click here where it says slides sized for widescreen, if I click, notice that there are all of these other slide size options, and these are definitely worth investigating. I'm going to click cancel because I actually do prefer the widescreen slide size. So in this segment, we've looked at how to open an existing presentation, how to navigate within it, how to change the presentation view types, and how to insert, duplicate, and hide slides, and also unhide slides. And we've looked at how to change the slide orientation, the slide size. In this next segment of PowerPoint for Beginners complete course, we're going to look at how to format the text in your PowerPoint presentations. And for this, I'm going to jump back to my presentation about Chile. As you're working with text in PowerPoint, there will be times when you'll need to move text that you have in your presentation. So for example, let's say I want to add a map of Chile to this presentation, which I will do a little bit later in this video. And maybe I want the map to take up most of the slide. And maybe this text here is getting in the way a little bit. And if I could just move it a little bit to the side, it would work out perfectly. Well, that's pretty easy to do. All I need to do is click on the text. Once I've clicked on it somewhere, I get this text box around the edges of the text area. And if I put my mouse pointer on any edge, but it has to be almost exactly on that edge, any one of these edges, then my mouse pointer will turn into a plus sign with arrows coming out of it, and I can click and hold the mouse click and then move my text box to the side. You can also copy, cut, and paste text. And to show this, I want to add a new slide to my presentation. So I'll just right-click here and choose New Slide. Let's say I want to copy my slide title, Geography of Chile. I'll just click on it and then click on the edge of the text box. Now that the text box is selected, I can go up to the Home tab and click this Copy button. And then I can go to my third slide. And then without even selecting where I want to paste this, I can click the Paste button and it will paste it basically in the same place as it is on the other slide. In this case, it put it a little lower because there was already something there, but I could click and tap Delete on the keyboard to delete out the basically empty slide title text box, and then I could move my copy-pasted slide title exactly where I want it to be. So that's an example of copying and pasting, but you can also cut and paste. And I can copy and paste or cut and paste entire text boxes like I just showed, or I could select specific words, phrases, sentences, paragraphs, whatever, and copy, paste, or cut and paste. Let's look at how to cut and paste. With some text selected or the edge of a text box selected, you can click here on these scissors in the clipboard group on the home ribbon. Just click there and it will cut the selected area, and then you can go where you would like that to be added, and I'll just go ahead and click here and then I'll click paste. Now, as you may already know, you don't have to use this copy button and this paste button. There are a couple of shortcuts that are common in most programs, and they are Control-C to copy, Control-X to cut, and Control-V to paste. So I'll hold Control and tap V and paste in Western Coast. Now I don't really want to put that there, so I'm going to undo by holding Control and tapping Z. I could also use this undo button here. Next, let's look at how to format the text or characters that you have in your presentations. So for example, here on my title slide, I can double click on the word Chile to highlight it, and then I can go here to the Home tab, and in the font group, I can make some changes to the formatting. For example, I could change the font color, let's say to blue, which is one of the colors on Chile's flag. I could change the font type and size. Just by clicking here, I can choose a different font, and clicking here, I could change the font size. In addition to just selecting a font size preset, I can click and replace the number that's there with my own number. Tap Enter, and now the font is much bigger. There are other font options as well. For example, I could highlight text. I can also change to sentence case, to lowercase, to uppercase. I can also use the tools in this paragraph group to change how my text appears on the slide. Right now it's centered, but I could left align the text or right align the text. I think I'll keep it centered, and there are also other options to explore. Now, as you're adding text to your PowerPoint slides, one thing to be aware of is that Microsoft PowerPoint will constantly be trying to help you avoid mistakes. For example, if I type the phrase high achieving and I misspell achieving, when I tap Enter or space, notice what happens. PowerPoint automatically corrects my mistake. That's a feature called autocorrect, and it's very helpful. Another example is the word the. If I type TEH, it will autocorrect. PowerPoint recognizes that I probably meant to put the. Now, every once in a while, autocorrect will become a problem. Maybe I really wanted to put in the word TEH. Maybe that's the name of a company or a person. So to adjust the autocorrect settings, you can go here to the File tab, go down to Options, select Proofing, and then here is the Autocorrect Options button. Just click that, and you'll see a list of all of the preset autocorrections. And there are many, many already set up. There's some options here that you should look through, and you can set up your own autocorrect. So for example, the name of my wonderful YouTube channel is a little too long. I love the name, but it doesn't quite roll off the tongue, and it takes forever to type it. It's technology for teachers and students. But I've set up an autocorrect that gives me basically a shortcut for typing the name of my YouTube channel. So T4TAS, whenever that's typed, this is what's printed on the slide, Technology for Teachers and Students. So if you want to set up something like that, just click here, type in the characters that will be replaced, and then type in what they'll be replaced by, and click Add. I'm going to cancel that, cancel this, and I'll just click and type T4TAS. I'll type space or tap enter on the keyboard, and it's auto-corrected to be the full name of my YouTube channel. Okay, so we've looked at some of the font and paragraph tools that you can use to help you format your text in PowerPoint. And as I've been doing this, you probably have noticed that whenever I tap enter, I get a bullet. Here's the bullet, and then I can just go ahead and type, and then I tap enter again, and I get another bullet. This is a bulleted list, and I can indent that bullet by tapping tab. If I want to move that bullet to the left, I can go up here to the paragraph group on the home ribbon and click this button here to move the bullet back to the left. Now, what if I don't want a bulleted list? All I have to do is select my text box and go up here on the home ribbon in the paragraph group. I can deselect the bullets option. Now it gets rid of all of the bullets. In many cases, if you're not using bullets, you're probably using numbers. So I can click here on the numbering button, and I get a numbering system now. Let's say I want to add a second major point. I would just click here after several different climates, tap enter, and then I could use this button here to move that to the left, and automatically it's numbered as the second major item. So in this segment of PowerPoint for Beginners Complete Course, we've looked at how to format a presentation, especially how to format characters, words, etc., changing font size, color, and more. We've also looked at how to move, cut, copy, and paste text. We looked at the autocorrect settings and how to apply bulleted and numbered lists and how to switch back and forth between the two. At this point, you should feel really good about how your PowerPoint knowledge is coming along. You've already learned about half of what you need to know to use PowerPoint effectively. In this next segment of PowerPoint for Beginners Complete Course, we're going to look at how to construct a table in PowerPoint. And to show this, I'm going to move to slide 3, and I'm going to triple click on Geography of Chile, and I'll change this to Chilean Exports. Now at this point, of course, I could just click and add a bulleted list or a numbered list with some of the biggest Chilean exports. But instead, what I'd like to do is insert a table. And there's a couple of ways I could do this. I could click Insert Table, and when I click there, it lets me draw a table if I want to. I find that to be a little harder than I would expect. I could insert a table by typing in the number of rows and columns, or I could use this grid. I could put my mouse here on the grid and say, I want 4 columns, I want 3 rows, and then click. And if I do that, the table will be added to my slide. But there's another way to add a table. If you look at the center of this text box, I have some buttons that are faded. If I put my mouse on one of those buttons, it gets darker, better defined. But one of those buttons is Insert Table. So I often find this button to be a little bit more user-friendly. It's just right there on the slide, and I can just click. Here I can enter the number of columns. Let's say just 2 columns and maybe 5 rows. I click OK, and I've got my table. Now I can click in the table in that first cell in the upper left, and I can type, and then I could tap the tab button to move over to the right, and I could type in another word. If I tab again, it goes to the left side of the table and the second row down. So in this way, I can very quickly type and tab and enter the information into the table. If I choose to, I can align my text in the table a little differently. For example, I could click and drag to select the first row, which is often called the header row, and then I could go to the Home tab. Here in the paragraph group, I could center that text just to make it stand out a little bit more from the other text in the table. It is possible to reorder the rows and columns that you have in your table. For example, if I want to move poets to the top of this table, I could just click on the table and then click and drag to select the whole 5th row. Now that it's selected, I can right-click on it and choose Cut. Next, I would select the row above which I want to paste the row that I cut. And I'm going to go here to the Layout tab to show that there's an option to insert above. So I'll select that, and that inserts a row above my copper row. Now I can right-click on that empty row, and I can paste in the Poets row that I had cut. You can do similar things with columns. Now I'm sure you noticed when I inserted this table, it came in with some table formatting, including some shading that makes it easier to read the data. If that doesn't happen for you, or if you're not happy with how the table looks, you can click and drag to select the table, and then go to the Table Design tab, and you can see there's a whole bunch of different table styles. You can click or even just put your mouse over the different styles to try them out and see how they look in your slide. If you click this button here, you get even more styles to choose from. I'm going to go with this style here. I click away and you can see what that looks like. So in this segment, we've looked at how to construct a table, how to align text and rows in that table, how to move columns and rows, and how to add table styles or change table styles using the Table Design tab. In this next segment of PowerPoint for Beginners Complete Course, I'm going to teach you how to create a simple chart in PowerPoint right on your PowerPoint slide. I'm going to start by clicking here and then going up to the Home tab, and I want a new slide, but I want this slide to only have a title. That's all. So I'm going to select this particular slide layout. I'll click to add a title. Maybe I'll call this Population Comparison, and then I'll click away. Next, I will go to the Insert tab, and if you look in the Illustrations group, there's an option to insert a chart. When you click that, you get several options. I could do a pie chart, a bar chart, area chart, XY scatter chart, but for now, I'm just going to go with a column chart, and I'll choose this second one, Stacked Column, and it's going to add that chart into my document. Now, something interesting just happened. As soon as I inserted this chart, and it's just a generic chart, it doesn't really mean anything yet, PowerPoint opened for me a little window that looks like Microsoft Excel. If you're not familiar with Microsoft Excel, you should definitely watch my Excel for Beginners Complete Course, and also the Beginner's Guide to Microsoft Excel. If you're doing well with PowerPoint, you can totally do Excel, so I hope you'll check out those videos. But what we have here is a little bit of Excel inside of PowerPoint. And PowerPoint has automatically set up for me some data, but it doesn't really mean anything. So I'm going to change the data. Here on cell A1, I'm going to click, and I'll type in the word country, and then I'll tap Tab to move over to cell B1, and I'll type population. And then I don't need columns C and D. So I'm going to click and drag from C to D. It highlights the entire columns. I'll right click on any one of those and choose delete. Now they're gone. Now watch what is happening to the chart that I inserted as I'm making these changes. If I move this, you can see that there's some changes that have been made. And I want to undo those changes so you can see what it is that changed. Now I'll redo with Control Y. So I've deleted out C and D. I don't need those. Next, in cell A2, I'm going to click and type in Peru. I'll tap Enter. I'll type in Chile, tap Enter, type in Bolivia, tap Enter. I don't need category 4, so I'm going to right-click on row number 5, choose Delete, and look at my chart. Now it's down to 3 columns. We have Peru, we have Chile, and Bolivia. So that quickly, I've created a simple chart on my PowerPoint slide. I can now X out of the Excel window, and I could resize this chart just using the corner of the chart, clicking and dragging on that to shrink it down. And there are some changes I can make to this chart if I'd like. I can click on the chart, go up here to Chart Design and Chart Format, and there's lots of changes I could make. Before I make any changes though, I've noticed a mistake that I made. I never updated the population numbers for these countries. Now the good news is I can right-click on my chart and choose Edit Data to get back into that little window of Excel. I could also use the Chart tab and the Data ribbon and just choose Edit Data, and I get the same little pop-up window. So here I could click and enter the number for the population of Peru, approximately. Tap Enter. Notice that my chart reacted to that change, and now I can put in the population for Chile. Tap Enter. Again, my chart reacts to the new information, and also I can put in Bolivia's population. Tap Enter. Now I can close the Excel window and get back to working on the look and feel of my chart. Let's just look at a few of the chart options that we have. Here on the Chart Design tab, we can add chart elements, and you can see all of the different options that you have there. There are also some quick layout options that you could try. You can see a preview of what they'd look like as you mouse over them. You could change the color scheme of your chart, and again, you get a preview without clicking. There are also chart styles that you can browse through, and if you click here, you get even more chart styles. I'm going to go with Style 8, so I just click. In addition to what I've already shown, we also have some chart format options, including changing the word art styles. So for example, the word population, is a word art style, and I can change that up by clicking any of these other options. Now on this same chart format tab, I could annotate this chart. One way to do that would be to insert shapes. So for example, I'm going to click here on the oval, and then I'll click and drag on my chart to basically circle Chile. Now that I've added that oval, I can go up here to the Shape Format tab. In the Shape Styles group, I can change the format, and I think I need to change the shape fill. I'll make it no fill. I could change the shape outline to maybe a different color. And if I click the Shape Styles Launch button, it gives me even more options, including some line options. I could make the line width much bigger and thicker. So that's a nice way to annotate a chart in PowerPoint. In this segment, we've looked at how to create a simple chart in PowerPoint, how to enter data into the little Excel window that pops up, how to edit that data, how you can choose a chart type, how to modify what the chart looks like, and how to do some simple annotations. In this next segment of PowerPoint for Beginners Complete Course, we're going to look at some of the object types that you can add to your presentations. And I'm going to start by clicking here on slide number 2, and I'll go to the Insert tab. On the Insert ribbon, you'll find here in the text group some options for adding more text. Now we already have a text box with a numbered list, but one of the nice things about PowerPoint is that you can add as many other text items as you want and as you can fit on your slide. But just so you know, it's not a great idea to overburden your slides with text. If you add too much text, you're going to lose the audience. Having said that, let's add some more text. So here on that Insert ribbon in the text group, let's start with adding word art. If you click there on word art, it gives you different styles to choose from. I'll select this one here, and then I get a text box that's added to my slide. But this isn't just regular text, it's word art text. I could now triple click on that text to highlight it, and then I can type to put in the words that I want. Now, if I highlight my word art, notice that I get a pop-up here with some of the common font options in PowerPoint. So this is another way to do things like bold or unbold your text, change the font type, the font color, the font size. Anytime you see that handy pop-up, it's kind of a shortcut. Using that is often faster than going here to the Home tab and using the font group. Now I can go to the very edge of the text box and I can click and drag to put it where I want it to be on my slide. Now, one of the nice things about having more than one text box is you can overlap them. You can work with each text box separately from the others. I'm going to click on the edge of that text box, hold Control and tap C to copy that, and then I'll hold Control and tap V to paste, and I'll just move this over here, and maybe I'll double click on that word and type in the word volcanoes. Now, in addition to inserting word art, you can also insert just a regular text box. I can now click anywhere in my slide and I can type. So that's another type of text box that you can add into your slides. Now, in addition to inserting different types of text, you can also insert pictures. Here on the Insert ribbon in the Images group, we have a Pictures button. When you click that, you need to specify where the picture is coming from. Is it on this device, or do I want to access stock images? Now, some versions of PowerPoint don't have access to this stock images option, but you probably do have online pictures. So let's start with online pictures. When I click that, PowerPoint accesses the Bing image search, and you can search right here from within PowerPoint for an image to use in your presentation. So I'm going to search for Chilean volcano, and it brings up some great options, and I can click to insert the volcano in this case that I want to add to my presentation. Once I have that on the slide, I can click on any of the corners and drag to resize the image and put it where I want it to be. Let's look at some other pictures options. Insert Pictures. I'm going to add another online picture, but this time I want to show you a trick. If I do a search for volcano and then add PNG to the end of that and tap enter, it's going to search for volcanoes that tend to not have the rectangular backgrounds. So for example, this one should have a transparent background behind the volcano. So if I select it and click insert, now look what I get. I get a volcano, just the volcano, no background or anything else. So if I wanted to, I could delete the other volcano and just use this one. So that's a trick to try, adding PNG to your image searches. It doesn't work every time, but it often does. Let's insert a different kind of picture this time. How about stock images? When I select stock images, it lets me search for all of these different kinds of images. Generic images, icons, cutout people, which are very useful in PowerPoint. You can have people pointing at different parts of your PowerPoint, people showing different expressions. We also have stickers, videos that you can add, just short little clips, illustrations, and cartoon people. I'm going to go back to images and I'll search the word desert. I'll select this one and insert it into my presentation slide. It comes in way too big, but fortunately I can resize that down. It is also possible to insert pictures from your computer. You would just select that. By default, PowerPoint is looking in my pictures folder on my computer, and I could choose from one of the photos that I have there. I could select it and click open, or just double click on it. Sometimes double clicking is the faster way, and then I could resize that down. Now, if you're adding multiple items like this onto your slide in PowerPoint, there will be times when you want to reorder what is on top of what. So for example, this volcano is covered partially by the picture of the desert. To fix this, all I have to do is click on the picture of the volcano and then go to the Picture Format tab that will appear once you've selected the picture, and then I can click Bring Forward, and that changes the order in which these pictures appear on the slide. A couple of other things I can do with the word art, the text boxes, and my images is I can click on them and then use this circular arrow to change the direction or the angle of the item. And again, I could do the same thing with my text. Maybe I could make volcanoes tilt to the right a little bit and mountains to the left. And I think I need to play with this to make it look a little better. I'm also going to move this picture behind the word volcanoes. Another way to bring things forward and send them back, instead of using the Picture Format tab, is to just right-click on an item and choose Send to Back or Bring Forward. So in this segment, we've learned how to insert word art, additional text boxes, pictures from various sources, and how to change the angle of the things that we add onto our slides. In this next segment of PowerPoint for Beginners Complete Course, we're going to look at how to create drawn objects in PowerPoint. And I'm going to click here on the Slide 3 thumbnail. And once again, I'm going to go to the Insert tab. Whenever I use PowerPoint, I find myself using the Insert tab and ribbon very frequently because there are so many different great objects that I can add to my slides using that ribbon. For example, here in the Illustrations group, I can select shapes, and I can choose from a huge selection of different kinds of shapes. Some of the most commonly used shapes in PowerPoint are arrows and lines. So I'll click here on line, and I could click and drag across my slide to insert a line to separate content that's above from the content that's below. Now, if you're struggling, like I am, to insert the line completely horizontally across this slide, there is a trick that you can use. If you hold the Shift key, notice that the line snaps into place in a perfectly horizontal line. Now that I've added a shape and it's selected, notice that I do have a Shape Format tab. Right from that tab, I can add another line if I want to, or another shape. This time I'm going to make a vertical line. I'll just click and drag, and again, I can hold the Shift key to force it to be perfectly straight vertically. I can also insert arrows. I can just go down here and select arrow, click and drag to insert the arrow, and then if I make sure that the arrow is selected, I can go to the Shape Format tools and go to Shape Outline, and I could change the weight of this arrow. I often find that the default line weight is way too thin. I want it to be thicker in most cases, so I'm going to change it to 4.5 point, and I think that looks a lot better. There are other shape outline options that you can also use. You can change the type of line that the arrow has, and you can change the arrow heads, making it a two-sided arrow or any of these other options. I'm going to tap Escape to get out of those options because I like the way the arrow is right now. I can also insert other shapes, rectangles, ovals, etc. With ovals, if you click and drag, an oval will appear on your slide, but if you hold the Shift key, it converts it to a perfect circle. With all of these different shapes, you can click on the shape and then change the fill color, or you can choose to have no fill at all. You can also change the outline color, and there are lots of other options that are fun to try. One other option that you should know about, when you insert shapes, you can add some of these shapes by selecting them and then clicking and dragging to place them on your slide, and then you could resize them as necessary. But then watch what you can do. You can double click on that shape and you get a flashing insertion point or flashing cursor. And you can use this basically as a text box, but with color. You can just type in your text, double click on it if you want to, increase the font, etc. This works basically like a text box. So that's a pretty good introduction to the insert shapes options that we have in PowerPoint. In newer versions of PowerPoint, we also have a draw tab and some drawing tools. And you can click and then simply click and drag on the slide to add a drawing, a doodle, maybe your latest masterpiece. You can click on this arrow here to change the color of the pen. And we do have an eraser, we have a second pen that we can use, and a highlighter. So in this segment of PowerPoint for Beginners, Complete Course, we've looked at how to insert shapes, arrows, lines, and some drawings, as well as how to use a shape as a text box. In this next segment of PowerPoint for Beginners, Complete Course, we're going to look at a couple of refinements that we can add to our PowerPoint presentations. And those are how to add a background image to a slide, and also how to add transitions and timing to a presentation. And then we'll finish this segment by looking at how to add themes to your PowerPoint slides. So I'm going to go over here to the left and click below my last slide, and I'll go up here to the Home tab and click New Slide. And for this, I want title and content, and I'll click to add title, and I'll call this Chilean Food. So that's the title for this slide. Now I could certainly click Insert and insert some photos of Chilean food onto this slide. But another way to use images in PowerPoint is to actually add a picture or an image as the background of the slide. To do this, you would go to the Design tab, and here at the right, just choose Format Background. There are several different format background options that you can choose from, but the one that's relevant right now is Picture or Texture Fill. When I click that, it just adds in a texture, but I can click Picture Source and upload an image from my computer, and whatever that image is, it will become the background of this slide. I could also access stock images or online pictures. So I'm going to go to Online Pictures, and I'll do a search for Chilean food. I'm going to select these empanadas and click Insert, and now the empanadas are the slide background. They fill the entire slide. If you decide to do this, you're going to find in many cases it makes it harder to read the text. Fortunately, there's an option that we have here. I can change the transparency level of the image to make it much more transparent. So that's a much nicer effect. Another refinement I could make to my PowerPoint presentation is to add some transitions and some timing. If we go to the Transitions tab, you can see that we can add all of these different types of transitions between slides. I'm going to go with just a simple fade. So that will be the transition to this slide. I'm going to close this Format Background pane by clicking this button here so that you can see my slides a little better. Now, if I wanted to, I could add a different transition for each of these slides. That's not really recommended. It's a common mistake a lot of new, less experienced PowerPoint users make, is that they want to try every single transition that they have available. So maybe on slide 2, I'll click here and I'll choose the vortex transition. Take a look at that. But adding too many different transitions really distracts the viewer more than anything. Let's take a look at the two transitions, and you can decide which is less distracting. So I've clicked here on slide number 1. And then I'll go down here to the lower right corner and click this slideshow button. I'll click, and there's my first slide fading in. And then I can click to advance to the next slide, and there's my very dramatic vortex transition. I'm going to tap Escape to exit the presentation, So have some fun with the transitions, but my advice is use them sparingly, use them judiciously, and in many cases, just use the same transition over and over in a particular slideshow. So let's say I want to use the same transition on all of my slides. Instead of adding each one by one, I could simply add a transition to my first slide and then click this button, Apply to All. Now, if you look here at the left, each of my slides has a little star with some lines to the left indicating movement. So now each of my slides should have the same transition effect, a simple fade. Now, another option that we have that's here on the Transitions ribbon is Advance Slide. By default, the on-mouse click option is selected, and that's good. What that means is anytime I want to transition from slide 1 to slide 2, all I have to do is click the mouse button, or if I want to, I can use the right arrow or the space bar. All of those methods, or even a presentation remote, will advance the slides. And I'm going to leave it that way. I think it's a good idea to leave that checked. But if you want, you can also set some slide timing. So I could say I want the slide to advance after 3 seconds. And if I want to, I can click to apply that to all of my slides. Let's try it out. So if I click on my first slide and click this button to start my presentation, it loads up, I can see the title, and it transitions to the next slide. And then 3 seconds later, transitions to the next slide, and then the next slide. Now, if you find that this is going a little too fast, you can tap the back arrow to go back, or if it's going too slowly, you can tap the forward arrow on the keyboard to go forward. But in most cases, if you're going to use slide timing, you may want to set that on a slide-by-slide basis instead of applying it to all. And it's a good idea to rehearse those timings and practice so that you know that you have the right amount of time for each slide. The last refinement for our presentation that I want to show at this time is how to add a theme to your presentation. If I go here to the Design tab, notice that there are themes, and I can just put my mouse over a theme to see a preview of how that will change my presentation. And notice that it changes not just the color scheme and the background, but it also changes the fonts. It changes in some cases where the text shows up on the slide. So it's definitely important to think this through and make your decision about which theme, if any, you would like to use. You can click this button here to get even more themes. And for now, I think I'll just go with this theme here. When I click, it adds it not just to the selected slide, but to my entire presentation. So in this segment of the video, we've looked at how to refine our presentations by adding background graphics if we want to a slide, how to add transitions, and how to add timing to slides. And then we also looked at how to add themes to our presentations. In this next segment of PowerPoint for Beginners Complete Course, we're going to look at print and export options in PowerPoint. Let's say that I'm completely done with this presentation and it's ready to be shared and to be used in the classroom or the boardroom. I can click here on File, and of course I would want to make sure that I'd saved it. But in addition to that, I also have the ability to export. Now, when you select Export, you get some really exciting options. For example, I can create a video based on this presentation that I've created. I could create an animated GIF out of it. I can also export handouts that go with the presentation. Let's try that. I'm going to click here on Create Handouts, and I get to decide, do I want my notes next to the slides, or do I want blank lines next to the slides, notes below the slides, etc. I'm happy with these selections, and I'll click OK. And PowerPoint now is opening up Microsoft Word, and it's creating handouts based on my slides. Let's switch to Microsoft Word, and there I have my handout to go with my slides. That way, my audience can take notes on the provided lines. I'm going to switch back to PowerPoint, and let's look at some of the other save, export, and share options that we have. I could change the file type of this presentation. I could save it as a PowerPoint show, which will automatically open as a slideshow. It won't open in edit mode like you typically see in PowerPoint. I could save it as a template or a picture presentation, and there are other options as well. Now, if I would like to see more options, I can click Save As here, or I could click Save As here, and then go here to this drop-down arrow and click, and notice that there are many other options to choose from, including one of the most important, which is PDF. I'm going to save it in my Documents folder, so I'll click Browse, choose Documents, it's got my file name, and I'll click Save. So here is my PowerPoint presentation about Chile. but it's in PDF format. I'm going to X out of that because I need to also show you that it is possible to upload this presentation using this share button, and I can upload it into my OneDrive account. Once it's in OneDrive, it becomes extra easy to share with people and to collaborate with people on this presentation. I can also choose to send this presentation as an attachment to an email or as a PDF attached to an email. So those are some of the best and most useful print and export options in Microsoft PowerPoint. In this final segment of PowerPoint for Beginners Complete Course, we're going to look at how to deliver a presentation in front of an audience. When it's time to present, simply open your presentation as you normally would, and then you can go down here to the lower right corner and click this slideshow button, or you could go to the slideshow tab and choose to run your presentation from the beginning or from the current slide. So let's say I'm on slide 3 and I want to start there. I could simply click from current slide. In this case though, I want to start from the beginning, so I click there, and here's my presentation with its transitions, with the text boxes, the images, the tables, the drawings, the shapes, my chart, my background image, and more. There are some other wonderful options here on the slideshow ribbon, including creating a custom slideshow and using Rehearse with Coach, rehearsing timings, recording. There's so much more that we could talk about, but at this point, you really have learned all of the information and techniques that you need to use PowerPoint effectively. So what are your next steps if you want to move beyond what we've learned here? The first thing I want you to know is that there are copies of the 2 presentations that I've used in this video, and you can get them by looking in the description below the video. Also, if you haven't already watched my beginner's guide to PowerPoint, you should definitely watch that as we delve a little deeper into some of the most basic options and features in PowerPoint. And then I also have other videos that will take you deeper into many of the settings that we've looked at in this course and some that I didn't mention at all in this course. So I highly recommend that you watch all of my PowerPoint videos. In this course, we've also mentioned Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word, and you saw little snippets of both of those tools. If you would like to take a similar course, but for Excel, please watch my video called Excel for Beginners Complete Course, and I also have one for Microsoft Word, Word for Beginners Complete Course. In the meantime though, I hope you found this course to be helpful. If you did, please like, follow, and subscribe, and when you do, click the bell so you'll be notified when I post another video. If you'd like to support my channel, you can do that by clicking the Thanks button below the video, or you can support me through my Patreon account or by buying channel merch, and you'll see information about those options in the description below the video. It's your support that enables me to continue to make educational content like this video. Thank you so much.